What if I told you the life you're chasing is already waiting for you inside your mind? What if the only thing standing between you and your destiny is the way you see it? Tonight, you don't learn something new, you awaken something ancient within you. Your mind is constantly recording, interpreting, and responding to the images you create within it. And the most fascinating part is that it does not stop to question whether those images are real or imagined. To your deeper mind, a vividly imagined experience can feel just as real as something happening in front of your eyes. This is not philosophy, it is how your brain is wired. When you imagine yourself standing on a stage, your heart can begin to beat faster. When you picture something frightening, your body can react with tension or fear. When you relive a painful memory, the emotions return as if it is happening again. This happens because your mind processes strong mental images as real experiences, sending signals throughout your body that shape how you feel and how you act. Now think about what this means for your life. If you constantly imagine failure, rejection, and limitation, your mind begins to accept those images as your reality. It prepares your body to hesitate, to doubt, to pull back at the very moment you should move forward. Without even realizing it, you start making decisions that match those inner pictures. You avoid risks, you lower your expectations, and you settle for less than what you are capable of becoming. Not because you are weak, but because your mind is simply following the script you have been feeding it. But the moment you begin to change those images, everything starts to shift. When you intentionally create clear, powerful visions of success in your mind, your brain begins to adapt to that new reality. It starts looking for opportunities instead of obstacles. It begins to guide your actions in ways that align with the image you are holding. Your confidence grows not because something external has changed, but because internally you have already experienced the outcome. You have already seen yourself winning, achieving, becoming. This is why visualization is not just a motivational tool, it is a form of mental rehearsal. Athletes have used it for decades, seeing their performance in their mind before stepping into the real moment. And when the moment arrives, it feels familiar. It feels natural, because in their mind, they have already been there. The same principle applies to every area of your life. The future you desire must first be experienced internally before it can be expressed externally. You must train your mind to see possibilities instead of limitations, to feel success instead of fear, to expect growth instead of failure. Because once your mind accepts something as real, it begins working tirelessly to bring your outer world into alignment with that inner vision. So every image you hold matters. Every thought you repeat leaves an imprint. And every moment you spend visualizing your highest self is a step toward becoming that person. Because your mind is not waiting for reality to change, it is shaping reality based on what you choose to see within. There is a deeper level of your mind that does not respond to logic, arguments, or long explanations. It does not analyze the way your conscious mind does. It listens in a completely different way, a silent and powerful way, and that language is not made of words but of images, sensations, and impressions. When you try to convince yourself of something using only words, the effect is often weak and temporary. But when you create a clear picture in your mind, something shifts at a much deeper level. The message bypasses resistance and goes straight into the core of your being, where real change begins to take place. This is why simply saying, "I want success" or "I will be confident" is not enough. Those are just words floating on the surface. The subconscious mind does not grasp them fully because they lack form, they lack feeling, they lack experience. But the moment you close your eyes and see yourself already successful, already confident, already living the life you desire, you are no longer speaking in empty language. You are creating a reality that your inner mind can understand and accept. You are giving shape to your desires. Think of your subconscious mind as fertile soil. Words are like seeds that may or may not take root, but images are like fully grown plants being placed directly into that soil. They carry detail, emotion, and clarity. When you visualize something with intensity, your mind receives it as a complete experience rather than a distant idea. It begins to organize your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors around that experience, even if it has not yet happened in the physical world. And the more detailed your visualization becomes, the stronger its impact. When you see the environment around you, the colors, the movements, the expressions on people's faces, and most importantly, how you feel within that moment, your mind becomes fully engaged. It is no longer guessing what you want. It knows. It begins to align your inner world with that picture, shaping your perception so that you start noticing opportunities and possibilities that were always there but previously invisible to you. Most people unknowingly use this power in the wrong direction. They visualize their fears. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They replay failures over and over again in their minds, strengthening patterns that hold them back. Without realizing it, they are communicating constantly with their subconscious, but the message they are sending is filled with limitation and doubt. And the subconscious simply accepts it because it does not judge, it does not question, it only responds. But when you become aware of this process, you take control of the conversation happening within you. You begin to choose your images with intention. You replace uncertainty with clarity, fear with confidence, and hesitation with purpose. You start feeding your mind the reality you want to create rather than the reality you fear. And over time, those inner images begin to feel natural. They become familiar. They become part of your identity. You no longer feel like someone chasing a distant goal. You feel like someone who is already aligned with it. And that shift changes everything because your actions, your decisions, and your energy begin to reflect the reality you have already accepted within your mind. There's a reason why some thoughts pass through your mind and disappear, while others stay, grow, and begin to shape your reality in powerful ways. The difference is not in the thought itself, but in the feeling attached to it. Emotion is what transforms a simple mental image into a force that can influence your subconscious mind. Without emotion, a thought is just a shadow. It has no weight, no impact, no lasting effect. But the moment you add feeling to that thought, it becomes alive, it becomes magnetic, it becomes something your mind begins to accept as important and real. Your subconscious mind responds to intensity. It pays attention to what you feel deeply. This is why moments of strong emotion, whether positive or negative, tend to leave lasting impressions on your life. A single emotional experience can shape beliefs that stay with you for years. And the same principle applies when you are intentionally creating your future through visualization. If you see your goal but feel nothing, your mind treats it as unimportant. It does not prioritize it, it does not act on it, it simply lets it fade away. But when you feel the excitement of achieving it, the pride of becoming it, the gratitude of already having it, your subconscious locks onto that image and begins to work with it. Think about the times in your life when you felt truly excited, truly confident, or deeply inspired. In those moments, everything felt different. Your energy changed, your posture changed, your voice changed. You became more certain, more focused, more alive. That is the power of emotion. It is not just something you experience, it is something that shapes your state of being. And when you combine that emotional intensity with a clear mental image, you create a powerful signal that your mind cannot ignore. Most people try to visualize their goals in a passive way. They see it like a distant movie, something happening far away from them. But that is not how you activate your inner power. You must step into the image. You must feel as if you are already there, already living that reality. Feel the confidence in your body, feel the joy in your heart, feel the certainty in your mind. Let it become so real that for a moment you forget that it has not yet happened in the physical world, because your mind responds to that feeling as truth. It does not wait for evidence from the outside. It takes the emotion as confirmation that this experience is real and important. And once that happens, it begins to align your inner patterns with that reality. Your thoughts start to support it, your habits begin to reflect it, and your actions move you toward it in ways that feel natural rather than forced. At the same time, you must become aware of the emotions you are feeding into negative thoughts. Fear, doubt, and worry can also become powerful forces when repeated with intensity. If you constantly feel anxious about failure, your mind begins to accept that as a likely outcome. It starts preparing you for it, guiding your behavior in ways that match that expectation. This is why emotional control is not about suppressing feelings, but about directing them. So when you visualize, do not just see your future, feel it with everything you have. Let the emotion rise within you until it becomes undeniable. Because when your thoughts and your feelings move together in the same direction, you are no longer hoping for change. You are creating it from within. The life you are living right now is not the result of a single thought or a single decision. It is the result of patterns that have been repeated over time until they became automatic. Your mind is designed to learn through repetition. The more you think a thought, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the more your mind accepts it as normal. And once something feels normal, it begins to guide your behavior without you even realizing it. This is how habits are formed, this is how beliefs are built, and this is how your reality is shaped from the inside out. Every time you repeat a thought, you are strengthening a pathway in your mind. At first, it may feel unnatural, even uncomfortable. But with consistency, that thought becomes easier to access, easier to believe, and eventually it becomes part of who you are. This is why people who constantly think negative thoughts begin to see the world through that lens. It is not that reality is against them, it is that their mind has been programmed to notice and reinforce those patterns again and again. Repetition has turned those thoughts into a default setting. Now imagine what happens when you intentionally repeat a new vision of yourself. At the beginning, it may feel distant, almost unreal. You may not fully believe it, and that is normal, because you are introducing something new into a system that has been conditioned for years. But if you persist, if you continue to return to that vision every single day, something begins to change. That image starts to feel more familiar. It starts to feel less like a possibility and more like a direction. Your subconscious mind does not change through occasional effort. It changes through consistent exposure. It learns by seeing the same message over and over again until it accepts it as truth. This is why repetition is not just important, it is essential. You are not trying to convince your mind in a single moment, you are training it over time. You are replacing old patterns with new ones, not by force, but by persistence. Think about learning any new skill. At first, it requires effort, focus, and conscious attention. But with repetition, it becomes automatic. You no longer think about each step, you simply do it. The same principle applies to your thoughts and your identity. When you repeatedly visualize yourself as confident, capable, and successful, you begin to act in ways that reflect that identity without needing to force it. It becomes natural. But repetition is not just about frequency, it is about consistency with intention. It is not enough to visualize once when you feel motivated and then forget about it. You must make it part of your daily rhythm. In the quiet moments, in the beginning of your day before you sleep, you return to that inner image. You reinforce it again and again, not out of desperation, but out of certainty that this is the process of transformation. And over time, something powerful happens. The gap between who you are and who you see yourself becoming begins to close. Your thoughts align with your vision, your actions align with your thoughts, and your results begin to reflect that alignment. What once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable because you have programmed your mind through repetition to move in that direction without resistance. There's a state of mind that most people pass through every single day without ever realizing its power. A quiet space between being fully awake and deeply asleep where the noise of the world fades and the mind becomes calm, open, and highly receptive. In this state, your thoughts are no longer scattered or resistant. Your awareness softens, your body relaxes, and your inner world becomes more vivid and accessible. This is where the surface-level thinking begins to step aside, allowing deeper layers of the mind to come forward and receive impressions without interference. In your normal waking state, your mind is busy analyzing, questioning, comparing, and often doubting. It filters everything through logic and past experiences. That is useful for decision-making, but it can also block new ideas from taking root, especially when those ideas challenge your current beliefs. But when you enter this calm and relaxed state, that filter becomes quieter. The resistance weakens. The mind becomes more accepting, more impressionable, and more willing to absorb what you present to it. This is why the moments just before sleep and just after waking up hold such incredible potential. Your brain naturally shifts into slower, more relaxed patterns, and in those moments, the connection between your conscious and subconscious mind becomes stronger. The door that is usually closed begins to open. And whatever you place into your mind during this time has a greater chance of reaching deeper levels where lasting change can occur. When you use this state intentionally, visualization becomes far more powerful. Instead of forcing images into a busy mind, you are planting them into a calm and fertile space. Your mental pictures become clearer, your emotions become stronger, and your focus becomes deeper. It is easier to feel as if what you are imagining is already happening. The experience becomes more immersive, more real, and more impactful. This is also the state where creativity expands and intuition becomes sharper. Ideas flow more freely because you are no longer overthinking them. Solutions appear more naturally because your mind is not resisting them. You begin to access a level of awareness that is not limited by your usual patterns of thinking. And in that space, you are not just reacting to life, you are actively shaping it from within. But reaching this state does not require anything complicated. It begins with simple relaxation, slowing your breathing, releasing tension from your body, allowing your thoughts to settle instead of chasing them. As you become more relaxed, you will notice a shift. Your mind becomes quieter, your focus turns inward, and your imagination becomes more vivid. That is your signal that you are entering that deeper level. From there, you bring in your vision. You see it clearly, you feel it deeply, and you allow it to unfold without force. You do not question it, you do not analyze it, you simply experience it. And because your mind is in a receptive state, it accepts that experience more easily. It begins to integrate it, to treat it as something familiar rather than something distant. Over time, as you practice this consistently, this state becomes easier to access. It becomes a place you can return to with intention. And every time you do, you strengthen the connection between your inner vision and your outer reality, allowing transformation to happen not through struggle, but through alignment with the deeper levels of your mind. There is a principle that quietly governs every result you experience in your life, and most people overlook it because they are too focused on what is happening outside of them. They wait for proof, for evidence, for something in the external world to confirm that success is possible. But the truth operates in the opposite direction. You do not see it and then believe it. You believe it deeply and consistently, and then you begin to see it take form around you. Everything that becomes real in your life starts as an internal acceptance long before it appears as an external fact. If you cannot see yourself achieving something, your mind will resist it at every level. Even if an opportunity appears right in front of you, you may hesitate, doubt, or even reject it without understanding why. This is because your inner image does not match that opportunity. Your subconscious is trying to keep your reality consistent with what it already accepts as true. It is not trying to harm you, it is trying to protect the identity you have built over time. And if that identity does not include success, growth, or expansion, then anything that challenges it will feel uncomfortable or unnatural. This is why seeing is not just about imagination, it is about identity. When you visualize your future, you are not just creating a picture, you are shaping the version of yourself that exists within that picture. You are stepping into a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, and a new way of being. And the more clearly you can see yourself in that role, the more your mind begins to accept it as part of who you are. It stops feeling like something distant and starts feeling like something that belongs to you. But clarity is essential. A vague image creates a weak impression. If you simply say you want success without defining what that looks like, your mind has nothing concrete to work with. You must see the details. Where are you? What are you doing? How are you carrying yourself? How are others responding to you? And most importantly, how do you feel in that moment? The clearer the image, the stronger the connection your mind creates with it. And that connection begins to influence your daily actions in subtle but powerful ways. As you continue to see yourself in this new reality, your behavior begins to change without force. You start making decisions that align with that version of yourself. You take actions that feel natural instead of forced. You begin to notice opportunities that you previously ignored. And slowly, your outer world starts to reflect the inner image you have been holding. It is not a sudden transformation, but a gradual alignment that builds over time. At the same time, you must guard against the images that contradict your vision. Doubt, fear, and negative expectations can create conflicting pictures in your mind. And when your mind receives mixed signals, it becomes harder to move in a clear direction. This is why focus matters. You must choose which images you give your attention to, because whatever you consistently see within will begin to shape what you experience outside. So before anything changes around you, something must change within you. You must learn to see your future not as a possibility, but as a reality that is already forming. You must hold that vision with certainty, return to it daily, and allow it to define how you think and how you act. Because once you truly see it, not with your eyes, but with your mind, you begin to move toward it in ways that feel inevitable, as if the life you once imagined is now unfolding exactly as it was meant to be.